You are going to be blown away by Notebook LM from Google and what it can do. This is a awesome tool for really understanding your information without the hallucinations and problems that you have with other AI. So this actually just works on specifically your sources and what you put into it, and it won't pull from other links on the internet. This is also built with Gemini 2.0. So the idea of it is it's a really phenomenal research assistant, and it's really good at not only taking ideas and finding matches between different sources and drawing connections between those sources in a way that will save you a lot of time if you're researching anything, particularly if you're researching anything very technical. And this, you're going to love it when we demonstrate how this works. You also can get instant insights from certain things. So it will just pull out some ideas and some research questions. So even if you don't know what you want to dive into, this is going to be a really cool tool. And you'll see the source, not just the answer. What this means is that if you pull in, let's say, a YouTube video and it transcribes it, and let's say there's a certain part talking about something, you can actually go right to that specific part and see that part of the transcript of the YouTube video talking about that. So you can look at what's around that and get the context. And that's what I think is really phenomenal. Also, you're going to be blown away by this. They have the audio features where it creates engaging deep dives. These are great for learning, and particularly about new content. In some ways, it's easier to understand this kind of information that we get from these podcasts and these audio guides because you can have it going on in the background. So this is going to really revolutionize what you can do with your computer. And again, they don't train your data on Notebook LM. We're going to go through all of that. So let's get into it. You're going to really love it. All right, now Notebook LM Plus, you're probably not going to use this unless you have a team, but we're going to cover a little bit about what it is, and you can unlock some of these premium features with Plus. You'll get 5 times more audio overviews. You can customize the length of your notebook responses a little bit better, and you can share with the team and get the analytics for the share data and what people are looking at. You can collaborate with your team, and if you need to collaborate on something, then this is something that is going to be very helpful. So there's a few different options that you can do that, and the pricing. So here's the difference. Most people are going to be able to just use this free. You can create one-click summaries, FAQs, timelines, and briefing docs. This just really gets you more. You're going to have more notebooks. So typically in Notebook LM, you can have 50 sources. Each of the sources can be 500,000 words long. That's going to be a lot. And you get 3 audio generations per day, but you're not going to have those limitations with Notebook Plus. And so if you want, you're going to be able to upgrade to a Notebook LM Plus. All right, so when you get started, you're going to see this welcome to Notebook LM. And basically what this does is this is just going to allow you to confirm that sometimes it provides inaccurate information and it doesn't represent Google's views. So you're just going to want to agree to these terms. And now you're in Notebook LM. And this is where the real magic happens. So it's going to ask you to create your first notebook. And basically this gives you a little summary of how it works. You upload your documents or Google Docs, and Notebook LM answers any questions you have about them. And then you can convert it into easy bite-sized formats like an FAQ or a briefing doc. And then you can play around with it in the studio. And we're going to get into that. But let's try this example first. So as you see here, you're going to see an example notebook here. And this has the different sources over here. This is where you would chat and interact with Notebook LM. And then this is the studio section. All right, so when you're in Notebook LM, you'll see your notebook start to line up here. And Google Notebook will automatically assign an emoji based a little bit on what the topic is. So this is web design. So you'll see the paint palette, and this is just introduction. And also you'll see this under settings up here in the top corner. You'll see Notebook LM help. You can go to the help desk if you have questions. You can also go to Discord. So there's a very active Discord community where you can get help and network with people. And you can change the device mode to light, dark, whatever you prefer. Also, if you need more support, there's a popular Reddit forum. Right now, it has about 16,000 members. It's one of the top Reddit threads, and you can certainly ask questions in here if you have questions or you want to learn some advanced features about how other people are using Notebook LM. When you're in Notebook LM, what you're going to do is you're going to want to create a notebook. And each notebook is like a collection of everything that you want on a specific topic. Now, the cool thing is you can add multiple sources here, and that's what we're going to do now. And the sources you can add here, when you click Add Source, you're going to get this pop-up screen. And this allows you to upload sources. So you can actually upload PDFs. So maybe you have a PDF, text, markdown. You can even upload audio, and it will transcribe that audio for you, which is really helpful. And then the other sources you can add are Google Docs and Google Slides. One of the nice things about adding a Google Doc is a Google Doc is going to be updated in real time. So if you make a change to a Google Doc, then the most accurate information is going to be available in your notebook. And that's different from a PDF because a PDF is a static document. And when you upload that, then it's only going to be based on what was in that PDF at the time. You can also add a website or YouTube here, and you will just paste in the link. Now, you can't get every URL, and that's okay. I'm going to show you how to get around that. But unfortunately, you can't paste multiple URLs as well. So you need to do it one at a time. And the second thing here is YouTube. So you can paste a YouTube video, and it basically takes the text transcript, public YouTube videos, and it will be able to transcribe that. So this is a great way to learn about a new topic. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a second. And lastly, on the source here, you can paste copied text. So you can paste your text in here, and this can be quite long. You can have up to 50 different sources on the free plan that you can add into this. And basically, as I said, what this is, you can give it a title here. And if you don't give it a title, then what will happen is it will take the first source and it will pull whatever the title is from that document and create that for you. But you can always go up and edit it here. And the important thing to understand with Notebook LM is that each notebook is going to have a specific focus. So if let's say you're a creator and you're creating a specific YouTube video on a specific topic, then you'd want to do your research all in one notebook and keep that together, and then start a new notebook if you have a different topic. So that's a way to organize it, and eventually you're going to have lots of different notebooks. All right, so in this case, what we're going to do is let's add some sources, and I'm going to learn about a topic that I don't know that much about, and it's called Webflow. And so what you can do is you can search in Google, and this is interesting, learn Webflow. And then if you do this modifier file type PDF, it will only return PDF files. Okay. So these are all PDF files. As you can see, it's got a little PDF icon here. And one of the reasons is because I want to use this as an example. So this is a 200-page ebook on Webflow. It goes about visual design, designing for the web, the design process, all that kind of good stuff. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to download that here, and I will download this to my downloads folder. And what we're going to do is we're going to add that as a source. So I'm going to add this as a source, and I'm going to choose a file, and I'm going to open right here, Webflow PDF. So now it's scanning this entire 200-page PDF about designing websites, okay? And you'll see here it takes the title from the title of the book. So not what I called it, but the actual title of the book. And you can change this if you want, but let's just leave it at that for now. Webflow. If I wanted to learn Webflow, maybe I'd want to write an article, Webflow tutorial, and we'll get Absolute Beginner's Guide. That sounds good. Let's look at this page, and I'll copy this URL. This looks like a nice detailed blog post that explains about that. And so let's add that as a source. So this I'm going to add from a website here. And let's go find some more sources. So with AI, one of the principles is what you put in, the quality of what you put in will affect what you get out. And this, I'm just going to look at this site. So this site seems to be more of a sales page. You know, I'm not going to add that as a site, but you can actually copy and paste things as well. Webflow versus Figma, right? So maybe I should learn a little bit about which is better. So I can take this URL, okay, when to use them, and I'm going to add that into my document here. And I also noticed that there's going to be some videos on YouTube. So this is a tutorial, flow tutorial. Okay, let's grab a couple of YouTube videos. So I'm just going to grab the link and come back, and let's add a couple sources in here from YouTube. And what's great about this is you can add multiple sources, right? So these sources are all based around a very tight topic, right? About learning this new software. Okay. And let's add this one as well. So let's put this in here, YouTube. All right. So now I've got all these different sources here. And let's say that I wanted to add a Google Doc. I'm just going to add a Google Doc here. And this is going to give me some Google Docs. And let's say that I wanted to add this copy of the landing page challenge. So now I've got all of these, and this is, I should say this is view only because this was just a copy. So that wasn't a Google Doc that I created. But we've got all these sources here, and this is really key. So next we're going to get to the chat and the studio, and let's see what we can learn as we go here. All right, so I added some more sources to this. And one interesting thing that you can do with, again, multiple sources is you can say, where do these sources disagree? And as I said, Notebook LM is really good at organizing and comparing different sources and finding commonalities between them and things like that. This is interesting. So this is breaking down where these sources disagree. And this is a great way to learn because then you can dig more into these different elements. And imagine having to go through all these videos to find that. Let's do another one. Does uploading in 4K give your video a boost? Okay. And again, I'm asking all these different sources. So I'm getting from a wide range of different sources what they think. And so there might be some disagreement on this. We'll just have to see. Okay. So it didn't give any information on that. So none of these sources really talked about that. And this is a good counterpoint to ChatGPT because ChatGPT would give me an answer for that, but it might just make something up. So that's important to recognize as well. But this is a huge pro tip, finding where these sources agree, which sources agree and which disagree. So that can be really powerful for your Notebook LM experience. All right, so I want to give you a real pro tip here. And let's say you don't know very much about a topic first. then a great place to start is Perplexity. Now, Perplexity AI, this, you can just do a new thread. And unlike ChatGPT, this is going to be actually up to date in real time. So it searches the internet. And I've been using this a lot more than Google. If I'm just curious about something or I want to know about something. What I love about Perplexity AI is it can take a lot of different opinions and sources and very easily give you a concise summary. And there's a few different options here. You can just do deep research, auto, pro search, reasoning with R1. This is deep seek, and reasoning with O3 mini. So let's just do auto. And let's just say that I wanted to, this will give you some different suggestions of what people are looking for now. But let's just say I want to learn how to use Webflow. What are some sources you can recommend? And I spelled that wrong, but that's okay. So as you can see, it's going to pull up some information here and it's going to collate this information for me, right? It will give me some very good ideas. And there's actually a community forum, right? So that's pretty interesting as well, because I might be able to pull some of that into my source. And it also says engage with Reddit's subreddit web design and web dev communities. And then you can add some different, it will give you some related searches down here. Okay. And this is a good one. So how can I get started with Webflow if I have no prior experience? And so it will find a path for me to do this. So this is a great way to get started. So what is this made in Webflow? So I'm going to click this and see what this source is about. Okay, 5 resources to learn Webflow like a pro. So this is actually made in Webflow. So let's go check this out here. So I guess these are all made with Webflow, and you can join this community here. There's actually templates. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. But this is a great, you can just start a new thread here. This is a great thing if you don't know what something is, right? So Perplexity is a fantastic tool for exploring a brand new topic to give you some context of where you can start and maybe some basic principles about it. So when you're searching, it's going to pull some of these different topics here, different sources, and you can see where each of these reference is here. But you can also just copy the text. Let's say I wanted to copy this text. I can copy this message. And I can copy it just default or without the citations. And so let's copy it without the citations. And we're going to add this as a source. So we're going to copy the text in here. And this is basically the markdown text that we got from Perplexity. So now we've got that all in there. And if you want to, with your sources here, if you click into any of the sources, then you'll see just a little bit about that particular source, and it will give you a little AI generated guide. This little stars here is showing that it's an AI generated guide. And you can also here with this button here, you can remove a source or rename it. And if it's just pasted text, I'm going to say Perplexity suggestions. Okay. And then it makes it a little bit clearer what each of these things are. Okay. And that's just good practice if you're going to be coming back to this, because with certain things that you might research in Google Notebook LM, you might be coming back to it and you might not want to click in and see what everything is. All right, so I want to give you some more tips on advanced sources. Obviously, you can pull in just different Reddit posts here. And let's just add this Reddit source here. But this won't actually pull in the comments. And the comments may not be as important for something like this. There's 65 different comments, and this is people giving opinions. And that's what Reddit is great for. So this may or may not be great for the kind of content you want to create. But let's say there was news that was just released, maybe AI news, maybe Apple had a launch. And if you wanted to find a thread and you could find a thread with thousands of comments and get the sentiment of what people are thinking about it, then this is the way to do it. So you go to the end here of the URL and you just type .json on the end of it. And this will just be the whole thread, including the comments. And as you can see here, this is quite a lot of text. And I'm just going to do Command A on my Mac and select all, and then Command C to copy. And then I'm going to add this as a source, and I'm going to add this as copied text, right? So this is how you can use Notebook LM to basically gauge the sentiment of any news that's happening. Okay. And we have pasted text here. So I'm going to rename the source comments on Webflow Good from Reddit. And now we've added that source as well. And so that's just going to give you some great content. As you can see here, the source is right here, and we'll get into what people think about it. But you can see that the source text is quite a lot. It'll be very difficult to, as a human, to gauge the sentiment of people agreeing and disagreeing about something, but this can actually do that job really well. All right, so let's get to the chat window. So the first part is sources. Next is chat. And this is where we can interact with this content with these sources. And there's a couple things to note about this that are a little bit different than, let's say, ChatGPT. First, Notebook LM is not prone to hallucinations. It doesn't go and outside of your sources. It doesn't search the web, so it's not going to make up things that aren't here. So that's the first thing. Second, when you chat with the Notebook LM, this is temporary. So if you were chatting and you had a conversation and then you left and you came back, this chat would be gone. So it will disappear. It's also good for brainstorming. So if you want to ask it different things about that, you can do that as well. And so let's just look at what we can do here. So one of the things that you can do is the briefing doc. And this is a great option to just start generating and to see what a good overview is. And we'll get to this a little bit later. You can also add notes, and this is ideal for, let's say, actually learning something. Think of someone who's learning something in terms of school. Maybe this was paper, and you just realized something about some benefits, right? So as you're listening to this or hearing about this, you can type, here's what I uncover for this, or tip 1. So you can actually keep your notes here. And so it's all in the same place, all in the same screen. You don't need to adjust your windows. It's right there, and it's great for typing as you can do that. And you should also see this is convert to source. So let's say we had written this, and just for the sake of time, I could say convert to source, and then it adds it to the source here, right? So anything that we chat with or we take notes is not gonna remain unless we add it as a source when we come back. And that may be important for certain things as well. We can just start interacting with this. So let's say, what is the benefit of using Webflow versus Figma for web design? And I'm asking all the sources, and this will give me the chat here. So they're often discussed together, but they serve different functions. Now, all of these have references, and if you hover over that, you can see that reference. And if you click it, it will actually go into your source guide and show you that part of the blog. So this is pulled from that blog post that we added in earlier, and it's showing you where it references that material, right? So that is fantastic. And so we can see this. And if we wanted to save this to a note, we can save it to a note, and then our notes will be stored here. So you can also look at some of the questions that they may suggest here, and we can see, so what are some advantages regarding responsive web design. And again, we can hover over, we can go right to the source, right? And this is linking from the PDF, right? As you can see, in a matter of minutes, it's sourced out and collated all of this 200-page PDF along with all of these YouTube videos that are 20 minutes each. You can see the amount of time that this would save. It's really fantastic. So you can start asking some things here. So what is the best way to get started with Webflow? And it will give you the suggestions based on what you've asked here. So let's ask something else. How can I add rounding to a button in Webflow? And so it's gone through all of this material, and here's how to add rounded edges to a button in Webflow. You adjust the border radius setting, locate the border setting, and so let's click on this source. So this is actually the YouTube source. Yeah, so usually we'll take you right to the part of the video where it mentions that particular part. So maybe we can get that happening in another lesson. But essentially, this will ultimately save you so much time when you want to research, and you have a lot of different material to go through and to look at. All right, so some really important settings in the chat. This is a different notebook that I have, and this only has one YouTube video in it, and this is about the YouTube algorithm. And this right here is really important, this little button here, because it allows you to configure your chat. So you can have the default style, which is probably recommended. You can also have the analyst, which is best for business-oriented strategy and decision-making. So if you're thinking of this as like a marketing analyst, someone that if you want to understand or have Notebook LM write a step-by-step guide for you, then you might want to use this one. This is sharing your notebook as a group knowledge base or like a help center, or you can do custom. And this is where you can suggest different roles. And I think that this is really important. You can do this in the prompt, but sometimes it's even better to do it here. So you want to do this, keep this at a high level for those who are experienced with YouTube. Okay. And so that will keep this as a high level, right? So I don't want to be talking to, let's say, a beginner. This is more geared towards people that are experts. Okay. And then you can also choose your default response length. So default, longer, or shorter. Okay. So with this one, we could do a briefing dot, but what I'm going to say is give a detailed breakdown of how the YouTube, I always have trouble spelling that word, how the algorithm works. Okay. And let's see what it gives us. It's going to break down this one video, right? And again, the real benefit of Notebook LM is you can take different opinions and different pieces of content, and it can pull them all together simultaneously. So this basically talks about user profiling, which not a lot of people talk about, even when they're not logged in. So it's really about the time and everything about the videos. And so I want to ask something about this video because I've watched this video, but I want to say, does YouTube recommend different videos to the same user at different times of day? And there, to answer your questions, yes, it recommends different videos to the same user at different times of day. And so it will go over this, and you can read the examples right here. and connect to the note. Now they're all going to have the same source because there's only one source in this. But this is something where it didn't mention the times of day specifically here in this, but this might be something where I want to save it to a note, right? And so I can use that again as some content. So those are some really important considerations. Let's refresh the chat, and this will just clear out the chat history. And again, what you can do here, so I can add a note and say unknown or more research, right? 4K is not discussed as a ranking factor. And so I've got that note. One of the things about this is the briefing doc is always nice to generate, and then this audio overview. And so you can just generate here with one click. And let me just make sure this is, so this is still on custom. But you can do this overview here, and this will generate a deep dive discussion about the main points. What's really interesting about this is AI, but it really sounds like two people having a conversation. And the thing that makes this really important is that it's an easier way to learn. When you're reading a lot of this stuff, like you're reading a blog post, that's certainly one way to learn something. But if you can walk around with your headphones in and listen to this conversation, you might actually pick up a lot more, because humans are hardwired to learn by stories. And this is more of a story. So you can generate the audio overview here, or you can actually customize it and say, focus on some specific thing. Where do you want to focus on? And this is a great way to help guide the output based on what your input. Let's just click audio overview, and it'll take a few minutes for this to generate, and then we'll come back and we'll listen to that. And this should be really exciting. All right, so now we're going to get to the audio overview, and this will sound just like a podcast. There's like ums and ahs in it, and that makes it very interesting. And as I said, this is a really great way to learn content, because you'll actually learn better, particularly about complex topics, financial topics, topics that are complicated from this audio overview. So I'll just show you a little bit of how it sounds.
Welcome to I've curated just for you all about the YouTube algorithm. You've sent over a really interesting mix of sources, videos from YouTube themselves, tips from creators, and even some pretty in-depth articles.
What I find fascinating is so many of these sources, they emphasize the same thing. It's that chasing the algorithm directly is. It's like trying to catch smoke. It's elusive. They're all data points feeding the algorithm's understanding of what each user enjoys. It's constantly building these detailed profiles of viewer preferences.
So it's like YouTube is creating a personalized viewing experience for every single user.
Precisely. And it goes even deeper than that. Your sources reveal that YouTube also takes into account factors. Time of day.
As you can see, this is a great way to assimilate content, and they're going very in depth here. And this is like a 20-minute thing that I can pop in and listen to while I'm doing something else, while I'm cooking, while I'm going for a walk, all that sort of thing. And you can change the playback speed. You can also download it. You can regenerate it as well. And I've just downloaded it right there. And so we're going to get into how you can use that a little bit later. But they also have this interactive mode, which is in beta. And this is really interesting. You're going to have to allow your microphone with this. But basically, what I can do is I can play the audio.
Welcome to Curated, just for you all about the YouTube algorithm.
Okay. And as they're talking, I can join.
Oh, my listeners got something to say.
And so I can say, I can ask them like a specific question. So I can say, so what's the most important factor for when you're uploading your video?
Great question.
I like that you're thinking about the content.
We're actually going to unpack that question a bit.
It's really about how the algorithm works to deliver content.
What's fascinating, so many sources emphasize the same thing.
Chasing the algorithm directly is like trying to catch.
All right, and then it goes back to what it was in. But this is a great way to interact, and you can actually ask for a little bit more detail about certain things. Like obviously, if this was at a particular part where I asked a specific question about that part, then they go into that section a little bit deeper. And just the way that they naturally can bring in that language where it actually sounds like there's that real interaction, it makes you feel really included in the process and in the creation. And again, when you're in the creation, it's so much easier to learn something than if you're just reading a static blog post or watching a YouTube video and seeing all these other videos and all these thumbnails that are trying to drag your attention away. This is a really fantastic way to learn things that are difficult to learn, that require a lot of focus. And if you need to break it down in a concise way.